majority to compromise to strike a final deal before Tuesday. Jeff Flake is a sixth-term fiscal conservative from Arizona. He voted yes today. South Carolina's Tim Scott, one of the 87 members of the House Republican freshman class. Congressman Scott voted no on this plan. Let me ask you first. Yesterday, you were a no. It was passed the balanced budget amendment as part of the second installment. Is that what won you over?
Right. I was no until the plan changed. And when it included the balanced budget amendment, that was good enough for me. I mean, it became a version of cut, cap, and balance. It has cuts, caps, and now a balance. So I don't begrudge those who voted against it. They had very good reasons, but I thought that it deserved a yes vote.
And why did it get a no vote? Why wasn't that not good enough for you?
I thought the Speaker did a very good job of trying to find a way to bring the conference together. At the end of the day, for me, it was all about moving that balanced budget amendment to the first tier of the debt ceiling increase.
Right now, I understand and respect your position on that. However, you know, in that building right there, you don't have the votes to get the balanced budget amendment through the Senate. Even if you could, the President of the United States says he doesn't want it. So the narrative playing out in town, and I want you to listen here, one of your Democratic colleagues, Chris Van Hollen, what the Democrats are trying to say is if you would drop that, the insistence on amending the Constitution, we could probably get a deal, but you won't drop it because, listen to Chris Van Hollen.
I think in the last 24 hours, we've confirmed what many people suspected, which is that the Tea Party Republicans may be a noisy and effective protest movement, but they're unfit to govern. They're unfit to govern.
Mr. Van Hollen, they're saying that because the Tea Party noisy can cause a protest, but you're unfit to govern, in his view. How could you prove him wrong?
Well, I mean, I think ultimately the president has already done that for us. Actually, there has been no leadership in government from the White House whatsoever. There's been no actual budget in the Senate in over 800 days. The only leadership that we've seen so far has come from the Republican conference. Speaker Boehner has given the Senate two opportunities, cut, cap, and balance, an opportunity to have a debt ceiling increase. And tonight, we're sending another opportunity over to the Senate to join the leadership team in Congress.
You've been here for this your sixth term. You're new to Washington, but you served in the legislature back home. So you understand, both of you understand how this works. One chamber, two chamber, then you have to figure out a deal. Let me put out a proposal for you, and I want to see what you think about it. Let's assume in the end, Leader Reid can't get enough votes for his. The Senate won't pass your plan. What if we had something along the lines of this? $2.5 trillion or so increase in the debt ceiling, an equal amount of cuts from the Congress, no tax increases in there. There is not a balanced budget amendment. You get a vote on a balanced budget amendment, a promise for that, but it's not in the deal. But the deal does include firm spending caps and even a trigger that if, say, you don't trust the Democrats' savings when it comes to Iraq and Afghanistan, if those don't materialize, there would be a trigger 6 or 9 months down the road that forced additional cuts. You would get at least some mandatory mechanism to cut spending. You'd get a vote on your balanced budget amendment. It just wouldn't have to be passed to get this through. Is that good enough as a final deal?
Well, I say that it's a step in the right direction, at least having the balanced budget
amendment. Would you vote
amendment.
for it if that came to the House Monday evening with the deadline approaching?
Without seeing Senator Reid's plan, my understanding of Senator Reid's plan is it contains $1 trillion of military cuts because he assumes the ending of the war. I'm not sure that anyone would consider that actually cutting spending. So for me, I'd like to see more.
How about if we just take the Reid plan? So it's their plan. Give the president the budget authority, or I'm sorry, the debt increase through the election as he wants, but then attach the balanced budget amendment to that. The Senate says they'll never vote for it. Put them in that position where their only objection is a balanced budget amendment that most of them have voiced support for, and many in the House, including Steny Hoyer and others, have voted for as well. The clean balanced budget, the one that passed in '95 out of the House with more than 300 votes.
I ask you both gentlemen to stand by for just a second. The Majority Leader of the United States Senate, Harry Reid, has just come down to the floor. They're taking a roll call vote right now, so we'll go back to the floor of the Senate when it makes sense, but the Senate is beginning to lay out what it will do next. We'll go back. Let's keep the conversation here. Again, in divided government, there has to be some give. Is it your position that if there's no balanced budget amendment in the final deal, not a vote on it, but passing the balanced budget amendment in the final deal, would your vote be no?
That's very difficult to get my vote without a balanced budget amendment. Just like the president says, it's difficult to get his support unless it takes it through the election. We'll give that to him, in my view. This is just me speaking. And we'll even accede to the Reid bill. In my view, I would do that, but attach the balanced budget amendment. So there's plenty of willingness to compromise on the House side. I just haven't seen it on the President or the Senate side.
No balanced budget amendment, no vote from Congressman Tim Scott.
The necessity of changing the way Washington does business is embedded in a balanced budget amendment. So I need that first.
You need that first. And so should Speaker Boehner, if there's a compromise plan like that, but it doesn't have the balanced budget, should he refuse to bring it to the floor, or should he bring it to the floor and maybe it passes with moderate Republicans and some Democratic votes, but not the votes of the two gentlemen I'm standing with tonight? Or should he say, no, this is so important to my caucus, I'm not going to bring it to the floor?
I think that when people say they won't vote for something, like Senator Reid saying he won't vote for a balanced budget amendment, I was here for the TARP. I saw what people voted for them when they said they never would, when the stock market dropped 700 points. I think that them saying that they won't vote for the balanced budget amendment, they haven't been put in the right position yet.
Let me ask each of you lastly, has your speaker been minimized at all? Has his leverage been minimized at all by the fact that he had to delay the vote plan for Wednesday? He had a very public affair. I'm sorry, gentlemen, I need to stop. The Majority Leader of the Senate, Harry Reid, laying out what comes next in this debate on the floor right now.
Is there a sufficient second?
There appears to be.
There appears to be. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Akaka, Mr. Alexander, Ms. Ayotte, Mr. Barrasso, Mr. Balkis, Mr. Beggett.
Another roll call there in the United
Mr.
States Senate.
Bennett.
We thought Leader Reid was about to speak. My
Bennett.
apologies. We'll go there as soon as we can. Come back to that closing question. The House vote was planned for Wednesday. It had to be delayed. It was planned for last night. Not only was it planned for last night, the Speaker publicly said zippity-doo-dah-day, had a public event to say it would pass, and then approaching midnight had to pull it from the floor. That's pretty embarrassing when you're the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Do you believe he has been undermined at all here? And do you believe, is there a weakness in the leadership team? Did the whip not count the votes right? Did they just get overly optimistic? What happened?
You know, I'll tell you that I think the Speaker's finest hour has been in the last 24 hours. Our Speaker has shown very strong leadership. He has been willing to listen to the conference, making what was very difficult come together in time for the Senate to act. I think Speaker Boehner is stronger than he's ever been with a better team.
Let me just tell you, I've been around for a lot of negotiations kind of like this, prescription drug benefit or other things. And the tools that speakers have had in the past, the ability to hand out pork and earmarks, this kind of negotiation would have cost billions in years past. The speaker didn't have that ability, and still through gentle persuasion and working with people, he was able to do it. I think all of us have more respect for the speaker than we had before.
Congressman Flake, Congressman Scott, appreciate your insights on this important night. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we are waiting for the Senate debate to begin. The Majority Leader Harry Reid to speak momentarily.